All right, so the camera is up and running. Welcome again to everybody. I'm going to pin myself to the screen so it looks better for you all. Okay, so I am going to randomly be calling names, and these are the only people that I would like to answer the questions that I go. And it's not really random. I'm going to be kind of going down the list. We're going to start with Addison. Addison, photosynthesis. What part of the plant does photosynthesis take place in? That's it exactly, the chloroplast. So inside the tree, inside the leaves, is what is called an organelle called the chloroplast. And that is just basically CHLOROPLAST, chloroplast. Okay, so Blake, how you doing today, sir? Good to hear this. So Blake, and this is old stuff, you should know this hopefully, but tell me one of the things that needs to come in to the chloroplast for photosynthesis to take place. What's one of the three inputs that I need? Sunlight. So we have sunlight, and sunlight is energy. This is what we call light energy. And that comes into the chloroplast. Brady, how you doing, sir? So what is another input, Brady, that we need for photosynthesis? We need water. Very good. And where does water come in at? Yep. It's absorbed through the roots. And then Elizabeth, I hope you're doing well. So Elizabeth, what is the last input into photosynthesis? What is the last thing that we need as an input for photosynthesis? We have sunlight, we have water. Carbon dioxide, very good. And that comes in, do you know where? Do you remember where, Elizabeth? Do you remember where the carbon dioxide comes into the plant at? Yep, the stomata. It comes in the leaves, the bottom side of the leaves, through the stomata. Very good. Emma, how are you doing today? Miss Walker? Good to hear. So, in photosynthesis, energy, carbon dioxide, water all go in the chloroplast. What happens in the chloroplast? There's something that actually happens in the chloroplast. Do you know what that's called? Any idea? Okay, that's all right. Hayden, do you know what happens inside the chloroplast? Okay, but what would we call that? If we change something from one thing into another, if we're making matter change from one thing into something else, what would that be called? Okay. Will, you raised your hand? Oh, a few of you raised your hand. It's a chemical reaction. Very good. So inside the chloroplast, there's a chemical reaction. And the chemical reaction just basically says that we're taking carbon dioxide, we're taking water with the energy that's coming in from the sun, and we're going to rearrange that matter. Anytime we take matter and we change it into something different, that's a chemical reaction. Remember that matter cannot be created or destroyed, only rearranged. Okay. So that law of conservation of mass, anytime that happens, that's a chemical reaction. So, Jackson, we have the chemical reaction. What is one of the things that comes out of this chemical reaction? Glucose. Now, does glucose actually leave the plant? Nope. It's going to stay in the plant. It's going to get stored there. C6H12O6. So the carbon dioxide, the water, as it's being broken apart and rearranged into this big old glucose molecule, the energy from the sun is being transferred from light energy into energy that's going to hold that big molecule together. Kendra, how you doing, young lady? Fantastic. What is the other thing, Kendra, that comes out of cellular respiration besides glucose? Yes, ma'am. Oxygen. So just to go over the drawing, I know it might be a little blurry, but here I have arrows from the sun coming into the plant, energy from the sunlight. I have carbon dioxide with an arrow going into the plant, and water with an arrow going into the plant. Coming out of the chloroplast, I have glucose with no arrow, meaning that just kind of stays in the plant. And then I have an arrow coming out with oxygen saying O2 in it. All right, so we've already tested this. We took a test on it. For the most part, we did pretty good on the test. And actually, that just reminds me of something real quick. Let me take a look real fast here. Oh, no, I can't do that. Can't show those grades. Sorry. I'll have to do that later. I'm hoping everybody has taken the test, but I can't look because I'm recording this. Okay, Kirsten, you doing okay? I think that's might have been the second time I asked you that. But. And what is the opposite of photosynthesis? Okay, not a problem. This is something we just kind of introduced. Hello, Kaylee. How are you doing? So, Kaylee, do you know what the opposite of photosynthesis is? Nope. Okay, I think somebody. Olivia? Yes. But to be more precise, it is cellular respiration. So, cellular respiration is how a cell gets its energy. So, it can't use, there is no cell, plant cell or animal cell, that can use the sun to give it the energy it needs to use. The chloroplast in a plant cell converts converts the sunlight, the energy from the sun, into a usable energy, which is stored inside of the glucose molecule. So once that glucose molecule is made, it could now be used to power the cell. The glucose molecule is what's going to allow the cell to convert that sunlight energy into usable energy for the cell. So, Lillian, how are you doing today? Now, do you remember the other day when we were talking about this? What is the part of the cell that converts this energy for this? Where does cellular respiration take place? Do you remember? All right, fair enough. Manuel, how you doing? How about you? Do you remember where cellular respiration takes place? All right, one more, then I'll ask for a volunteer. Millie, welcome, young lady. How are you doing? So, Millie, where does cellular respiration take place? You are saying it very correct. The mitochondria. Some people say it looks like a bean, a jelly bean, whatever, but the mitochondria. When you were in fifth or sixth grade, you may have heard this referred to as the mighty mitochondria or mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. All cells, animal and plant cells, have the mitochondria. And this is where the glucose goes to give us power. So, very good. Miriam, how are you doing today? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, Miriam, what do you think one of the inputs to cellular respiration is? Yeah. I mean, that one right there is kind of obvious because we were just mentioning it. It's what converts the energy. So, I have an input of glucose into the mitochondria. Very good. Nadia, how you doing, ma'am? So, Nadia, what do you think another input is needed for cellular respiration to take place? Yeah. So, you think about it, in our bodies, we have to breathe and we have to eat. So, those two things are what fuel us to be able to live. That's what allows us to. Uh, River, you're actually going to be called very quickly. I'm sorry I have not called you yet. I have been going down the list. My apologies. I'm not trying to ignore you, sir. The list is alphabetical, though. You'll be coming up very, very quickly. So, oxygen also comes in. Now, there are three outputs that come out of cellular respiration. Noah, what do you think one of those outputs might be? And how are you doing today, Noah? Yes, sir. First off, how are you doing? Good to hear. Secondly, What is one of the outputs that come out of cellular respiration? Okay, right now there's nothing drawn as far as coming out. We only have what's coming in to cellular respiration, which is glucose and oxygen. So what do you think comes out? Okay, carbon dioxide. So when we breathe out, we're exhausting things. So we're outputting carbon dioxide when we breathe out. River, what is another thing that comes out of cellular respiration? Water. Very good. Now, the interesting thing about water, a lot of people have a hard time understanding this, but when you breathe out, you actually breathe out water because all you have to do is get a glass, breathe on it, and you have condensation on the glass, which is water coming out of your body. That water is coming directly from cellular respiration. So water comes out of it. Let's see. Ryan, what would the third thing that comes out of cellular respiration be? We already got CO2 and we got water. So there's one other thing besides CO2 and water that comes out. Nope. That's one of the inputs. Olivia, not sunlight. We don't breathe out sunlight. I mean, if cellular respiration let out sunlight, we'd just be aglow. You're close though. Will, what do you think it might be? It is energy, but it's a special. It's not from the sun at all. Well, yeah, I guess it is, but not directly. This energy is called ATP. So energy, ATP. Now, what happens is this. So I'm going to move the camera so we can kind of see a little bit better. So up here, we have energy from the sun comes into the chloroplast. It takes carbon dioxide and water. They all go to the chloroplast. A chemical reaction occurs that makes glucose. Now, all the energy is stored in this molecule right here. It's been converted from light energy from the sun into a chemical energy that holds this molecule together. So from there, oxygen comes out, the glucose and the oxygen come down, comes down the mitochondria. So oxygen comes in, glucose comes in. There's another chemical reaction that takes place in the mitochondria where I'm breaking apart the glucose molecule. As a result, we have a waste product that comes out, water, and we have a product, CO2, that comes out. The energy that is released when I break this glucose molecule apart is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This is the energy that our body uses to live. We can't use sunlight directly, okay? Um, sunlight doesn't do me any good, and sunlight actually does not do the majority of the plant any good. I'm going to move over to my desk and plug my computer back in. So it is necessary for the cell to convert the electricity into something that is usable, and that is the ATP energy. Hold on a second here. Make sure. Okay. So the interesting thing about this is the majority of this stuff is a cycle. When the plant absorbs water out of the ground, it does a lot of other things, but as far as photosynthesis goes, it goes up to the chloroplast. It's part of the transfer of matter in the chemical reaction that makes that glucose molecule. Then that glucose molecule gets eaten or consumed either by the plant itself or by an animal. And as a result, water comes out. So, we breathe out water. A plant releases water actually also as a result of cellular respiration. That water is now in the air and becomes part of the water cycle again. So it's actually going to come back down to the ground in the form of rain or some type of precipitation and go back into the ground and feed back into the plants. So that water is a cycle. It keeps getting used and used and used and used. Carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plant, goes into the chloroplast again. Same thing. It's utilized to make the glucose molecule. The glucose molecule gets used by the cell, whether it's an animal cell or plant cell, and carbon dioxide is released as a waste gas, goes back in the air to be used one more time over and over and over again. The only thing that is not part of the cycle is energy, because it comes into the plant as light energy, is converted back into chemical energy, or converted into, not back into, converted into chemical energy, is used by the body in cellular respiration, and we waste energy at that point. We give off heat. Have you ever noticed, like, when you go work out or you go run, you get hot, correct? Your body temperature goes up. Well, that is the energy that your body is using for cellular respiration being given off as heat. That heat does not go back to the sun. That heat just is a waste product. So the only thing that is not part of a cycle, that does not keep getting reused over and over and over again, is energy. It comes in from the sun and then eventually leaves as heat. Does that kind of make sense? I'm assuming I got a lot of people shaking their heads, saying, yes, that makes perfect sense. I'm turning on to my camera so I can see the two people that have their cameras on, and they're both shaking their heads yes. Okay, so what I would like you to do today, there's Blake, there's River. Thank you guys. Give me positive affirmation. I appreciate that. What I want you to do today in Google Classroom, right now, is an assignment I am posting, and I'm going to show you the assignment real quick. It's under week 27. That says Monday. Let me fix that. That should say Tuesday. Oops. Hey, what am I doing? What's going on here? Oh, up here. Ah, really? Okay, try that one more time. All right. Well, it doesn't matter if it says Monday or Tuesday. My computer is being dumb. It says create a model of photosynthesis and cellular respiration showing inputs and outputs. If there is a cycle in the model, be sure to include this in the model. Make sure everything is labeled with arrows traveling in the proper direction. Also include a Google Doc that explains in detail the movement of energy and matter through the system of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So, what you are going to do is you are basically going to recreate what I drew up on the board. All right. You can go back and look at the video again. So you have that picture. In the perfect world, you guys all drew that down and you have it in your notes already, right? Because we all drew that. Kind of, sort of, maybe. So draw it, label it, take a picture of it, and then put it in the Google Doc where you explain to me what's going on with the matter and the energy. Does that make sense? All right. And that is class for today. I would like that to be done by the end of the day.